Welcome to Get Motivated with Donato, a show designed to reach you where you are, focusing on the fact that you can be anything that you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated. If you need a challenge in your life, then look no further. Get Motivated with Donato starts now.
All right, hey everyone, welcome back. And we're doing Get Motivated here with your host, Dr. Donato. And I'm very excited today to have with me Dr. Garrett. He is an international best-selling author. He's a mindset coach, a speaker. We've been in some things together. And I just want everybody to welcome Garrett. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good. All right. So let's jump into it, Garrett. I know we've known each other for a while here, and it's such a pleasure to finally have you on the show. Want to talk about some things we've done, but also what you've got going on, and get people kind of excited and motivated. So to that, I just got an icebreaker question here to get the show going. If you ever wanted to like meet somebody, past or present, who would that be?
There are two actually. There's one who's passed and one who's here,
Cool.
and for very different reasons. So my favorite musician in the world is Eric Clapton. Like I've seen him in concert. Like his good. I just love him, and I would love to meet him in that aspect. But the other one is Dr. Wayne Dyer. I mimic things as we coming up through some personal development, personal growth things that I went through, especially in the speaker engagement. There's, who is it that you want to be like? And Wayne Dyer was the man. So when I speak, there's a lot of mannerisms that are from him. So yeah, nice. I would love to meet them.
Awesome. So with all of these different things, right, that you've had in your life, everybody goes through that kind of stuff. I mean, we need to get motivated. We need to understand how to get motivated and stuff. So from like your perspective, when you hear like get motivated, what does that mean to you, and how do you do that?
My mindset and motivation shifted. I read a book, and I reference this book all the time. It's What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. And in the book, he really talks about this extrinsic motivation is something that's it's false. It's false motivation. So we go to motivational speakers and we get amped up, and then 4 days later, we're no longer amped up. It's because we haven't put that motivation intrinsically in our person. And then there's a speech called The Common Denominator of Success by Gray. His first name is escaping me. It's Ian Gray. But he talks about this. It's your purpose, your passion. The things that we go after forces this intrinsic motivation. So when we're working through purpose, passion, if that's what we're going for, we have this internal desire to do the things, whatever it takes to make that happen. And I think when people find that purpose and that passion, they get motivated. They have no choice. No. It's the subconscious really just starts to buy into this thing, and that the feelings and emotions cause this motivation that drive them. And I think that's really key. And so when we say get motivated, I believe that's the piece is, are you working towards your purpose, or your passion? If not, you'll understand why you don't necessarily do all the things to get to the successes that you're looking for, because there's no intrinsic motivation there. And so getting motivated is finding that purpose and working towards that passion.
That's awesome. And that makes so much sense, right? We've got to apply ourselves, right? Bible says faith without works is dead. So you have to do something, right? And
right.
that's that motivation. But you gotta, you mentioned, hearing somebody and getting all hyped up. I mean, I like that to some summer camps I had when I was a youth. You get all charged up, you get all fired up, you're like ready to go out and attack the world. But if you don't go out and attack the world, you're not doing anything, right? So
Yeah.
we've got to keep that in ourselves and then start applying those things that we've learned to get motivated, to be motivated, to get to that next level. So thanks for sharing with that, because that's awesome. So along those lines, I'd like to kind of talk about, like some of the different things that, we might have done together, like Coach Doctors, for example. We've probably been influenced, obviously, by John Tallarico, Les Brown, stuff like that. And, that's one of those things that I like to talk about, because in our lives, we all go through tests, right? We all go through challenges. We all have them. But what do we do with those tests? What is happening? When it's happening to us, we're like, oh, what are we going to do? But as we go through them, right, we need to now learn from that story, and those tests that we go through, we need to turn them into testimonies and apply them. So, or tell them to other people, right? So they can also apply them in their lives. And that's one of the things that I found that was interesting about you, that I want our audience to be inspired by, that's mentioned in your bio. I mean, you're Dr. Garrett. You're this big, world-renowned author and speaker and coach, mentor, all these good things, right? But you had some humble beginnings. You were a high school dropout. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you go from being a high school dropout to being like Dr. Garrett? Tell us about that, to inspire us, to get us motivated, right?
Yeah. So yeah, at 16, I ran away from home and I dropped out of high school. And it was really, I was running from, it was religion. I was running from religion at that point. I wanted to, as a kid, I just needed to experience things. And so we were talking about faith without works, right? The Bible, and there's a lot of aspects in the Bible that like, don't do this, and this is the morals that we have to, and why, what was so bad about living in sin, honestly. And that sounds so terrible, but sin feels so good, and so how do I do that? And so as
there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing.
right. And so I ran from it. I had to learn the hard way. And I think a lot of us do. A lot of us have to learn the hard way. And just throughout the Bible, it's there, right? All these lessons of, you could have just avoided that. But at the same time, but if I didn't, if I did avoid it, then how can I bring this message to the world that you can be a high school dropout and a runaway, and you can turn your life around? And so even though I ran away from home, I was a very motivated kid. I was working 2 full-time jobs. I paid bills. I was 16, living an adult life, and I was doing stupid things. I always say that my maturity level did not match my ambition level. So there were stupid things that I did. But it was really my dad who shifted things for me. He when I ran away, he was in Korea and stationed in Korea, and he came back and he made this deal with me. He's like, Garrett, look, I get it. You've been out here now. You've experienced freedom, and I don't want to take that away from you, but I feel like you need to shift things so you can progress in life. And so he literally said, if you go back to school, I moved to Kentucky with him, and he said, if you go back to school, that will be your job. I will give you a paycheck. And so he paid me to actually go to school. And in my mind at that time, when I took that leap and said, okay, cool, I will do that, I knew that if I was going to go, I was going to go all the way. It was something that I had to prove to myself. And I think that's a story in of itself is, gee, I can go finish high school, but then what? And so I was going, well, I'm going to go all the way. And I knew I was going to get my doctorate, but I thought I was going to be in architecture. It ended up being in computer science, and so many journeys that happened through that. But the motivation, since we're here with Get Motivated, was I've always wanted something more. And I didn't necessarily know what that was. And so there was a lot of that journey with this ebb and flow of life, these ups and these downs. But I always knew where I wanted to go. And then when I hit that purpose and that passion, the doctorate in computer science actually does not translate with what I'm doing now. It does, if we look at us as human beings being walking computers, basically, our subconscious being the operating system. So it's really interesting how I've tied that in there. But I knew that I wanted something more out of life. Even as a child, I just went about it the whole wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a little internal to us guys, right? We always want to just do stupid stuff. It's like built into our DNA, right?
Right.
And we just got to learn our lessons, you know. Hey, don't stick your finger in the light socket. Well, why not? Yeah,
That's life, right?
So, you know, that's the thing. We all go through stuff, and sometimes we bring it on ourselves, right? But to learn from it, to grow from it, you know, I have that technology background too. You know, it's how do we keep applying ourselves? How do we keep learning? You know, because I think in life, you know, each one of us are a bit older now, but we have to keep learning. We got to keep growing, and you know, even though we've got doctorates or whatever, it's like we're not done learning. You know, we're not done growing. There's still things that we can learn and grow from. But now we also get to impart to others, right? And I think that was, again, Coach Doctor's here, our book that we were in together, workbook, really, right? And all the different things that we learn, you know, from each other. But like, you're a coach now. You've been able to take some of these lifelong lessons, right, and apply them. And if you've got a 12-step program, you know, your mindset engineering system, and that helps people, right, and all the other things that you do to help people. But tell us just a little bit more about that program, about you as a coach, and give us that motivation to get to the next level. How do we do that?
Yeah, for me, and another thing that we have in common is we went through this thinking into results. And for that journey, there was a lot of awareness brought in this aspect that we don't typically know what it is we want out of life. And so this program is built on a foundation of this thing called a life script. And I didn't coin that. It's done by Peggy McCall, where she talks about this life script. And for me, the life script was an important piece. It was very foundational where I wanted to go, because I sat down and said, well, what do I want my life to look like? And developing this script, right? We are the storytellers. We're co-creators in this aspect. And we are put here to, like you were saying, we go through these tests, and these testimonies is an important piece, is because we come back around. Even if we get out of the biblical realm, there is Joseph Campbell has this great thing called the hero's journey. And it really signifies what we do. We get this call to go and do something. If we answer that call, we go through these tests, these trials, these tribulations, and then we come back and we get to tell about it. But part of that is, I don't know what that calling looks like if I don't sit down and take the time to be introspective and say, well, what am I supposed to do? What do I want out of my life? And I found that when we do that, the inspirations, and we can, faith-wise, right? This is the Holy Spirit is talking to us, is coming through us. Some people will call it your higher self, whatever that looks like for you. But it's saying this is who you were created to be. And although we're defining what we want, I understood that it wasn't, and we'll go back to Wayne Dyer. He says, we don't attract the things that we want, we attract who we are. And so we define what it is that we want. And to do that, we go, well, who does that person have to be? And so this is what this 12-step program is really all about. It goes, one, let's define that, what we want. And then we look at that and say, well, who is that person? And who are you currently? And it becomes, I don't use the term personal development. I use personal discovery, because we're discovering things about us. And when we start to step into this passion and this purpose that we were talking about with this motivation, it comes from sitting down, being introspective, and defining all these things. And then we look and go, okay, well, who am I currently? And we understand that currently you're an imposter. You're not who God created you to be. And I think especially with Christians, sometimes I think we lose sight of that. We come into this, that yes, we're sinners, and we have this aspect that we are freed from, but we don't but we're still working within that imposter. And so although that, we were washed by the blood, there's still imposter syndrome that we have to deal with. And that's a big thing in Christianity. And we when we define this, that 12-step program is working with the subconscious, is taking, and we call it mindset engineering, because we reprogram the subconscious, right? We have these beliefs that we came through as sinners, and now we have to reprogram what that looks like. And if you have that faith, and I think that's so important, is to bring all that together. And outside of Christianity, we talk about affirmations, but the Bible says, let the weak man say, I'm strong. I am. So I am affirmations it's a big thing, and it's all biblical. And if we bring it back into the Bible, this is what this 12-step program is all about. It's really connecting with who God created you to be, utilizing the tools that are ingrained in us as humans that he put there to get back to where we are supposed to be, where we're working through that purpose and that passion, and to what we were created for. It's a long roundabout way of saying that, but I think that's basically what it is.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you said it a little differently than I always like to picture it, but it's like we're a construction zone, right? I mean, we should have our helmets on because we're a work in progress,
right.
And that's, what we really need to think about, especially as you refer to, some of us Christians or whatever, if the Bible talks about, or Jesus said specifically, don't worry about the speck in your brother's eye until you've figured out the plank in your own, and that's the thing, until we can get ourselves put together. And I feel like the more we've lived this life and the more we work on our own selves, we realize all of those different things. You said imposter syndrome, like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this like I should. And I need to work on that and all this other stuff, so that plank becomes more visible to us, right. So we then, if we're really applying those things, don't worry about the speck in our brother's eye, because we know where we've come from. I think that's like what Paul was trying to get at when he was talking about, hey, I'm the chief of sinners. I mean, he went around killing Christians before he became Paul, right? He was Saul. Right. He knew where he came from, and he knew, like, we consider him nowadays this great apostle that wrote, 2/3 of the New Testament or whatever. But he knew where he came from, right? He had those humble beginnings, in a sense, being blinded on the road to Damascus and all that other stuff. And that's where we got to learn, like, not to judge others and different things, right? Work on our own selves. And then the things that we go through, let them be those testimonies, to build up and encourage one another. So I think that's awesome, the way you've said it. And it just helps us all. And that's what we should be doing, right? Is working on ourselves, then we can help others, right? Not chastise them, not ridicule them, but build them up, lift them up. And in Coach Doctors that we're a part of, you lead us through to define what, why, who, and I mean, just tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like that kind of goes in with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's exactly what I was saying. And we define the what is it that we want this life to look like? And then if we do this in a way where we're being honest with ourselves, I feel like that the truth, the true you, tends to pull you in a direction of this is how I need to express myself as, and so, but it works from this and we get caught up in money and mansions and cars, and that's our what, right? We want to have this, but for me, my what was more, because I had this journey, I wanted to be able to talk to people about this. And my who at that time was I had major social anxiety, just tons. I could not do what we're doing right now. I couldn't talk to you. I was crazy shy. I was an introvert, and definitely couldn't get on stage. Definitely couldn't do podcasts. There's just so many things that were keeping me from. Let me help people get to this idea of you can be a high school dropout, runaway, and be successful in ways that and not a statistic. So there was that story that was there. So, but I knew the what was I wanted to be able to share that. I wanted to be able to bring people with me. So, but then it was the who, and the who was, well, who is that guy? Because that guy and who I currently was, they were not jiving. So that's where the shifts started happening. And then the how, I think a lot of times we want to know the how. How is it going to happen? And faith is an important aspect, not just in where we are with, I believe in God, I believe in this. So there's faith that things are going to unfold the way they're supposed to unfold, as long as it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things are going to be given unto you. So it's going to unfold the way it's supposed to when you really develop what that who is, and that what that we're supposed to be going for. And it was such an amazing thing that then with the let the weak say I'm strong, I stopped saying that I had social anxiety. I am strong. And through, we look at Moses, who's like, I'm slow of speech. And he's like, I don't care. Like, it's not you that I'm worried about. You are the vessel. Like, God's going to work through you. And that was the key piece, is that social anxiety, or whatever that looks like, that's something I imposed upon myself, and I was going to be utilized as a tool for him and really bring all this stuff together. And I actually like that we can talk about this, because with the coaching, it's not always faith-based, but I love to bring my story in the faith-based aspect of what that looked like, and how we can shift who we are. And it was told to us biblically that you can do this. But we as Christians don't believe. We believe the Bible, but we don't believe the Bible, and it's such a big thing. But it's the who, what, and how. The how is going to be unfolded for you. You go through the journey, and you will be led in ways, as long as we're in tune with what we do. Like those inspirations that the Holy Spirit is doing with us, guides us to work within that purpose. So that's really what that's all about.
It's awesome. I mean, like you were just saying, our TIR, Think and Grow Rich type training platform, and so much more of these other things that people do, Bob Proctor, John Maxwell, all of this teaching that we get is very biblical, whether we believe it or not. And like you say, as Christians, we read the Bible, we believe it, but we don't necessarily apply stuff. Well, because we don't know how to look for it or how to discern it, right? Because if we really look at it, and all of these principle, motivational, fundamental teachings or whatever that we have or get, they are all biblical if we would just take the time to kind of really, do what the word says, meditate on God's word, chew it, like think about it, ponder it, and then God brings that revelation to us, right?
Right.
So I want to go through now and talk about what you're going to currently be doing here. You've got this movement, right? That's coming up here, and you're doing this project called Triumphant, and you're doing a call to authors. It's going to be so cool. Can you tell us more about that and how we get involved?
Yeah. So Triumphant it's something like, when I was, again, that you go through my journey, and I was wanting to be a speaker and an author, and starting off, I just didn't know how to make that happen. And eventually I was connected with the right people, and I started doing anthologies and like Coach Doctors. That was part of that journey, understanding what being an author looked like. I wrote my first book, very small book called Moving Upstream Without a Paddle, and I didn't know what to do with it. Like I still don't market it the way it's supposed to, because I've done so much since then. But Triumphant really is bringing people along with us. And there's so many people who have stories to tell. They have these journeys that they've been through, but they don't know how to access the platforms to do that. So this is kind of it's a mixture of, okay, let's get you, if you want to be an author, let's get you a chapter in a book. If you want to be a speaker, we can get you a chapter in a book. We can refine your story. And then part of Triumphant is the Triumphant Summit, where you can go and you can speak your story on stage. And so that's the end result, but I call it a movement and a transformative piece, because when you make the investment to do this, there's mentors that are going to guide you. How do you write that story? How do you make that a powerful story? How do you go on stage and speak with confidence? So I have mentors who are going to be giving master classes on really what to build you up and to become the who. That's the important piece. We defined, so this all goes back to the who, what, and how, or the what, who, and how. What do I want to be? Well, I know I want to be a speaker. I know I want to be an author. And cool, that's awesome. So we'll bring you into the platform and we'll teach you and coach you the who. You have to become this person, and becoming that person is really, again, like shedding off the imposter that you can speak with confidence, and it's scary sometimes, but this is the path. And we show you the who, and then how starts to unfold for you. So it's really taking those three elements, bringing it into one platform, and telling your stories of triumphant, so we can bring the rest of people with us. It's that testimony that you were talking about. So it's all those pieces. And now what we're doing is the call for authors, but the authors are going to be speakers as well, if they so choose. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. If you feel like the author is just your thing, then that's your thing. But you come in where you fit in at that point. But it's opening up all this stuff, these platforms for people to give their testimony, to share this. And although we just said that there's this extrinsic motivation piece, we are going to motivate the masses, but it's your own personal growth that people are going to see. I think that's the testimony, right? And we go back to biblical piece, and they say that they're going to know who you are by how you live your life. And it's these stories, the testimonies that we're doing, is going to spark. I believe it's going to spark, although extrinsically at first, it'll help people to get into more of an intrinsic motivation of saying, oh, you went through that. How do I do that? And if you can go through that, I can go through that, and I know where I want to go now. And so now I can take the actions, the works that I have to do to get to where I want to go. So Triumphant is really just redefining or bringing back triumph to other people, just one story at a time.
That's awesome. We're going to have a link in our description below that'll talk about how to get involved with that. But beforehand, I mean, so we're calling this a movement because I'm taking this line out of your thing. It's celebrating stories of inspiration, empowerment, and success. And like we're talking about, we're turning our tests into testimonies. You mentioned Moses, right? I mean, what a guy, right? I mean, Moses was a murderer, right? I mean, he first is born and then hidden and then found by the princess, grew up, in the Pharaoh's place, but then murders an Egyptian, runs away, hides away for so many years, and then doesn't think he can be used by God. I mean, that might be some people's stories out there, right? And, sees the burning bush, but Lord, I can't do this. I mean, he was like arguing with God. Like, oh, you don't want to use me, Lord. If you're talking to God, I'm thinking, maybe he wants to use you, right? And that's the kind of stuff that we need to learn. But to that, right, this anthology that you're coming up with for Triumph, that should motivate all of us out there to be a part, because we did go through something in our lives. We've probably gone through a lot of somethings in our lives. And now it's the time, whether we're introvert or extrovert or whatever else, to put that on paper, to share our story, so now that we can empower others, right? Give them the hope and encouragement that they need. And I think that's a lot about, you talk in this triumphant, you talk about inspiring other people. So, I mean, inspire us to get part of this triumph movement.
Well, and I think you hit it right. We all have these stories. Some of us feel pulled. I don't want to say pushed. I want to be very particular in the words that I'm using. Feel pulled to share these stories, and there is a fear aspect. And I think when we did the official author call, I wanted to remove some excuses that, like what Moses was saying, he's arguing with God, giving him all these reasons why he can't, because he was scared. There was a fear factor that was there, and fear is healthy. It really is. When we look at this and say, I'm fearful, that who wants to hear my story? Everybody wants to hear your story. Everybody needs to hear your story. We go through these things to bring people with us. I'm a firm believer of that. I ran away. I did some choices on my own of running away from home, but the decisions that I made brought me to a place of triumph. And so if you're in that position, you can be triumphant as well. It is, I feel, and I've always said this, that our story is not ours to hold. It's ours to share. We go through these things so that those who are going through things can lean on what we've done and say, borrow my strength, borrow my belief in what you can do because I did it. And that's so important. So we have to heed the call. And again, we go through this hero's journey, that when that phone rings, pick it up and say, yes, I will go and I will help others. And it's carrying that burden of our brothers, of our sisters, saying we go through this collectively as a unit, right? This is the body of Christ. It's not, hey, my arm is just flailing over here. No, we all work in conjunction with each other. And that's why it's so important that we share these stories of triumph, these stories of empowerment and success. So when people realize, hey, life sucks sometimes, but we can get through that. By the grace of God, we can do that and share that strength, give people the strength that they need to make it through as well. And then it's time for them to share their story and their testimony. So we have to come together as a collective and stop saying, no, I did all these things and yay me, and I just hold it to myself. No, we are meant to share this testimony, to bring people to the level that we've achieved. And so it's in my mind, it's our duty to do that. And so if that doesn't inspire you to share what you have to do to bring your brothers and your sisters with you, then I don't know what else can inspire you on that aspect.
Right. Well, and it's so true. I mean, we got that Moses example like we were talking about. I mean, then there was David in the Bible, man after God's own heart, but he was an adulterer. He was a murderer, and still he was a man after God's own heart. Wrote all of the Psalms. I mean, or the vast majority of it anyway. That's the thing. Like, God will use us if we open ourselves up. And what better way to open ourselves up than to get involved with something like this? Again, we're talking about a movement here, right? And you mentioned like expanding that reach. So we're gonna write this chapter, but then we have the opportunity to expand that and become speakers, right? To share that testimony even more on another broader scale. So I mean, tell us, like, how are we going to get this opportunity within Triumphant to learn how to do all these things?
I have very specific people who are involved in this, and Dr. Pamela is one of them. I know you know her. She, you know,
Yep.
she was part of the coaches, doctors. That she was that visionary. So she's done this a lot, and she's worked with very influential people, inspiring people like Les Brown, John Tallarico. I mean, she's a part of this. I have very specific people in that are going to be mentoring others through this, and one of them is he's a TEDx coach, and here in Colorado.
Nice.
He's going to teach on speaking with confidence and just being a powerful speaker. He'll be coaching about that. We'll have other coaches talking about different platforms outside of stages, you know, podcasting like we're doing right now. This is a platform where people can share their story. And if you so choose, you can start a podcast and just bring more and more value to people, which also gets you noticed by stages. So you can be invited to go to stages. So we're teaching you how to position yourself in a way that growth is going to get you to be able to speak on the stage. And it really is just, I'm giving the platform, like the Triumphant Summit that's part of this investment. It's there for you to speak, to be able to do that. So it's just that's how it works. But really it's the coaching. I think the value really comes from the coaching pieces and these master classes that are going to happen during your journey of writing this chapter.
It's awesome. And in case Nicole hadn't talked to you about it, I mean, we're doing this through DNP Publishing and stuff, but I mean, I'll be more than happy to extend the opportunity to anybody else in the program too that wants to be on Get Motivated to talk about their chapter and promote the book when it comes out, especially because I believe in it, right? I mean, I know these things. We've done stuff together, and I've been in other stuff, and that's the thing. This is a community, right? And we all have different things that we've gone through, right? So nobody's story is exactly the same. There's certain things that are similar, you know, but like we all can learn from one another. We all need to support one another. And I think that's another one of those things that you're bringing to or through Triumphant here, right? So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how it's going to be that community, but I feel like that's exactly what it's going to be.
No, it's already building up to do that. So people who are signing up to be authors are bringing other people who like, oh, this person has an amazing story as well. We have Trunas Goggans, who has a podcast, The 4 Ps of You. He's like, I want to bring people on the podcast. And we all know what this looks like. And so there's many podcasters and other people who are like, I want to extend this opportunity. There's magazines. There's one of the authors he has a online magazine called Your Success, and he wants to bring all the authors into that magazine. And then Dr. Pamela has a magazine. So it is a community. Like the rising tide lifts all ships, and we're elevating just as much as these new authors or new speakers are elevating, because we're bringing something, to the table that we see our growth as we watch other people grow with us. And it's becoming such an amazing aspect to see all these people. Oh, I believe in this. And so here's more value that I can add to that as well. So it is a community, and that's really, again, it's the movement. Like we're all moving forward, and this is not going to be a one-time deal either. This is something that's going to be it's going to be an annual thing. So every year there will be new books and new summits, and just to help people have that growth. So my hope is that people who do this first one come back to be mentors in the second, because they've gone through the process, and now we can bring others with us in that piece too. So and to build that community, and really that is the goal, is to build this community and share these triumphant stories. That's
awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I want others to be excited about it, so with all of this, I mean, tell us more, or who should work with you directly, be it with this anthology, with your coaching, or anything else that you do. This is the time for it's our call to action, right? Now we've learned all these things. Now we got to put them into principles, right? So tell us how to do that.
If in the people that I coach, that I resonate the most are those who have these stories. I do a lot of other events outside of this. It's just all about telling your story. And then I encourage people to, I want to, but I'm scared. And those are the ones that really need to reach out to me. Is I don't, no one wants to hear my story. And I just, took that excuse away from you. And like everybody, they not only want to hear it, they need to hear it. And so if you feel compelled, I remember as a kid watching just my pastor from the pulpit and going, man, I wish I could do that. I was always felt like that was something that I was supposed to do. I would go to listen to motivational speakers and I was drawn to be able to do that, but I felt like there was no way I could. If that's you are the people that really need to be a part of this, because if you're having that kind of pulling to speak, that you have something that you need to share that's going to benefit people. You just don't know how that's what that's going to look like, how to go about it, and you're really fighting with the fear aspect. Those are the people that we need, because it's that pulling means that that's something that you're supposed to do. I feel like not everybody is called to be speakers like this. Some people are called to be one-on-one testimony people, where I can share something with just individuals and small groups, but others are called to be on the bigger stages, bigger platforms, to really go out there and share the inspiration that they from the stories that they have. And so if you are that somebody, you're the one that needs to be part of this book, because that's your calling. It really is your calling. And that's the what. You're just ignoring the what. So once we get that what defined, and in the mentoring aspects of this, you will skyrocket and make careers out of inspiring people. And how awesome is that? That's our job, is to inspire and motivate people. Those are the people that need to contact us and be a part of this project.
Excellent. No, and that's so cool. I mean, I've had those things in my own life. Like, there's so many different things that pull you one way or another. You have these interests, and it's like, okay, yeah, I've got the gift and talents to do this or this and this, and you can do all these things. And then, my wife teases me about the different voices that I use, because apparently when I talk to men, or I talk to women, or if I'm talking business, or if I'm doing all these things, I have different voices that I use. I kind of do, I guess, but it's just kind of funny. She points that out. But there's things like, all right, there's many facets to who we are, right? And I've done some self-examination in the past. It's like, okay, who am I? What am I? It's like, all right, I can do all these things, but who am I? Like, what defines me? One of those things is being a pastor, right? And then now it's like doing this type of thing too, being that motivational and somewhat spiritual speaker, and author, and much like yourself. And, that's what we're here to do, is to bring hope, bring encouragement, and then take people that are interested. And I hope everybody listening is interested to get involved with this, because that's what we're trying to do here, is, definitely to promote you and Triumph, but, get those people working with you. So there's going to be ways to get a hold of you in the description below. But if there's any specific ways that you want people to get involved, tell us how we do that.
I think Nicole will probably put it in there, but there's a whole jot form that explains. I was very detailed, and we had a call with her with the call to authors, and she was like, "That's the most detailed jot form I've ever done," because I'm very specific about where this is going and how it's going to be. So really, those details are in that jot form, and that's the best place to get involved and to see what's there. And then any questions, if you have any outside of that, it's really just reach out to me directly, and or Nicole at that aspect, is she will have answers for us as well. But it's that jot form that's going to get you involved and really give you the description of what is in being detailed in part of this whole project.
Okay. And if it's somebody that just needs, maybe they're not quite ready for the anthology part of it, but they need some coaching from you, how do they do that?
Yeah, that would just be Garrett at GarrettGoggans.com. Just email me. We can get that set up. And it's I will probably talk about this later, but there is a freebie thing that's going on right now to for just people who are listening here. Like I said, for me, the foundation is this life script. And so definitely reach out to me if you're listening to this right now, and we can 3 sessions. You'll get 3 free sessions where we can develop your life script. Now, what you do with your life script is a completely different animal, right? We're defining the what and the who, but there's so much stuff in between that has to be shifted. That's it's going to be up to you and how you apply these things. But just that Garrett at GarrettGoggans.com, reach out to me and we can work that out. So
that's 3 sessions for free that you're giving away?
Yes, it is. It's 3 is it's a very important number, because 1, we want to do, the first one is we want to break out of this idea, and you'll probably remember this just from going through TI, thinking the results, is that when we first do something, we're going to write a laundry list of things that we want from our life. And as we're doing that laundry list, we'll leave things out because we're going to want to understand the how, like how and when, and we'll leave things out of that. And so the first piece is really to break through and stop our limiting beliefs and just do the things that we want to do. And that will be our first session, is really breaking free from the how and the when, and get that laundry list done. And then the second session is going to be, all right, after the first, you'll write your life script, and we'll go through that. And what does that look like for you? How does that resonate? How does that feel when you read this? And then the third one, because you're going to have to revise it. We always have to revise it, because we leave things out that are very key to our success. And so then the third one is that final, now what do you do with it? I have the life script, now what? And I'll send you on your way with the next steps.
That's so awesome. I mean, I don't know who's all watching, listening, whatever. I mean, you guys need to understand how powerful that is right now, that he's devoting that time and effort in those 3 sessions to you, to equip you and empower you to be able to make some life-changing results that are going to benefit you from now until the end of time, right? And to really get you on that new path, that new forward direction, and change that mindset. And we were talking earlier, about mindset, and, when we first become Christians and sinning, and we've got to go through these things where our mind gets changed. Some of us might have grown up where we were told, well, you can't do that, or you'll never become anything, and what are you thinking, and all these negative things that get told to us. And if we hear them enough, they get inside of us and they get programmed, and then we believe that nonsense. So we start to say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I've never been able to do this, I always get sick this time of year. We believe this nonsense. So now we've got to reprogram ourselves, right? And what Dr. Garrett just talked about, and all the things that we've talked about here, and that you're going to learn through his program, and as a part of Triumphant, all of that's going to help you change your mindset, to refocus your beliefs, to give you new ones, right? And to equip you. And that's the key, to equip you to be able to become that new you, which is a book of mine. But, it's going to empower you to grow, to step out of that shell that you're in. Dr. Garrett talked about being an introvert, right? And start applying yourselves to become more, to do more, to be better, and then to share that with others. I think we both agree on that, right? We need our tests that become our testimonies are there to equip others, to encourage them, to empower them so that they can get through things in their lives.
Yep.
So as we close here, Dr. Garrett, is there anything else that you'd like to convey to us?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. This was awesome. Again, I don't necessarily get to talk about the faith-based piece of my story, and so it was very fulfilling for me to share that testimony.
Awesome.
So I think I love the fact that I'm gonna steal it from you because I love your tests into testimonies, and that's so key. It's so key to what we're supposed to be doing here. So yeah, just even if you're not part of Triumphant, just understand that it's key for humanity. It's key for everybody who's coming with us is that testimony piece. And again, it's I feel like it's our duty. And I'm almost sure that is biblically said that, hey, you need to go out and share with the world. And so it's a thing. And so even
that's
if
our great commission.
Yeah. So even if it's not triumphant in some way, find the platform, find whatever it is that your calling is to share that testimony. And I think that's really how we need to lead this out.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. This platform is the motivational, get motivated, right? But that's the thing. We need to get up off our butts. We got to do something, get up off the couch, I always like to say. And do something, right? And it's just so true but we need that motivational piece. We gotta know how to get up off the couch and apply ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, our faith plays a huge part into that, and hearing from God, especially, I think, we all have different gifts, talents that God has given to us, whether we know or realize them, and now we got to start applying them. And what better way to do it than through this triumphant movement, but just in general, like, all right, now that we've heard all these things, now that can relate to somebody's testimony or, story, what are we going to do next? So that's our challenge now to everybody else that's listening. What are you going to do next? You've heard things. You've been equipped with things now. How are you going to apply them? How are you going to move forward? How are you going to get motivated and then motivate others? So I want to leave that with everyone else today. Dr. Garrett, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you. I appreciate this movement because that's what we got to go into all the world and preach the gospel type of a thing. But that's what you're going to do with Triumphant, is that you're just going to go in, tell all these stories that's going to equip and empower so many people because you're giving them tools, right? Mm-hmm. How are we going to fix anything if we don't have the tools to do so, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And that's what this is going to be. That's what this platform is going to be. And it's just such a blessing to know that, to see that, and to be a part of that. And again, just thank you for being on here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. I'm amped.
There you go. All right. Well, everyone else be blessed. And until next time, get motivated.
Thank you for listening to Get Motivated with Donato, where Donato speaks with leaders, authors, influencers, and speakers who share their life journeys with motivational tips, lessons learned, and keys of success that will motivate you to change your life. Follow Donato on Facebook and LinkedIn at Donato Parisi, or go to donatomotivates.com. Remember, you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated.